Assalamu alaikum everyone, Ramadan Mubarak. Welcome to the 2020 Ramadan session here at Masjid Al-Mu'minun in Memphis, Tennessee. I am Mahaj Abdul Baki. Inshallah, I will be facilitating and navigating us through the Ramadan session that we're going to have today, inshallah. Our presenters today will be Imam Rashad Sharif, Imam Muhammad Amin, and Imam Hakeem Love. Our Ramadan session will be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will take a short break from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. After that, at 2 o'clock Eastern Time or 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, our guest khatib will be Imam Yahya Abdullah of Masjid Muhammad in Jacksonville, Florida. We asked the believers at that time, and I'll give us a reminder again, inshallah, that they tune in to Masjid Muhammad, and Muhammad is spelled M-U-H-A-M-M-E-D. Masjid Muhammad in Jacksonville, Florida, for Imam Yahya Abdullah. He will be our guest khatib or presenter for our 2020 Ramadan session. Inshallah, we also are doing it live on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Zoom. For all the information that you need for Zoom, please refer to the Masjid page, Masjid Al-Mu'minun. It will give you the designated numbers and the Zoom ID that is necessary for everyone to join in to Zoom. Inshallah, at this time, we want to open up the Ramadan session, inshallah, and we want to do it with the most perfect of openings, that is Al-Fatiha. If all the believers would take a position of reverence at this time. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Inshallah, at this time, we'll begin the Ramadan session with our first presenter, Imam Rashad Sharif. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Well, Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak.
We're so glad that you were able to tune in to this most unusual Ramadan session that the community here in Memphis, Tennessee has produced so far. We have a tradition of having a certain theme in all of our Ramadan sessions. And that theme relates today to something that you see right here. I hope that you can see this on your screen. But our themes in our Ramadan sessions have always said learn. Learn to do a certain thing that is very related to Ramadan. Learn to do what?
Read.
Learn to read. And what have we been saying year after year to learn to read? It's learn to read what Allah has revealed. In this particular Ramadan session, this 30-minute session that I have, we're intending to emphasize reading this right here. Hopefully you can see it. For those who are in the Musalla with me, what do you see right here?
Learn to read what Allah has revealed. The crescent moon.
The crescent moon. The crescent moon is called the HILAL. H-I-L-A-L. This is the Quranic term for the crescent moon, the HILAL. And today, inshallah, we're going to read kind of between the lines. You see how the crescent moon is between the lines, right? So we're going to read the crescent moon. Now we made a decision to try to be faithful to the theme that we had for Muslims in Memphis month, which was the month of March, which our events, most of them got canceled due to the COVID-19 situation, but that theme was to be 2020, the year of clear vision, as a lot of people are making their themes for 2020, the year of clear vision, understanding three things: your religion, then moving closer to self, your community, and then moving closer to self, your responsibility. So we're talking about one phenomenon, which is the crescent moon. We're going to talk about it from two aspects, and then we're going to further focus the understanding into three subcategories: your religion, your community, and your responsibility. So look, we're used to seeing this, whether it's on flags or it's on rings or it's on necklaces. We're used to seeing a crescent moon, and it's been associated with al-Islam. I don't remember anybody saying definitively why. I don't know if we've ever asked why. But we know that on the surface, on a flag, on a ring, on a necklace, people use this phenomenon of the HILAL crescent moon. The HILAL crescent moon, and people use it to symbolize al-Islam. So this being 2020, the year of clear vision, inshallah, we'll look at this a little more. Bear with me. So, we have this crescent moon. This is the moon that you would see at the start of Ramadan. You will see it on the right side. You should see it in the western horizon, low on the western horizon, and the light coming on the right side. There's a crescent moon with the light on the left side, but for the start of Ramadan, the crescent with the light on the right side is what we see. So we want to make a point today that we look outside for the crescent, but really, this is you. This is me. This is us. Take a moment before we start getting into detail. But we said we're going to look at one phenomenon from two aspects. The old aspect, the surface aspect, we look out into the western sky for some light on the surface of the moon. But the other aspect, when it's the human being, is the light that is reflected by you. The light that's reflected by me. The light that's reflected by us. Now the word phenomenon, if we look at it, it says a fact or situation observed to exist or happen. If it's not observed, it's not a phenomenon. Right? We go out to look for the moon. If we observe the moon, it's a phenomenon. If our Islam is not observed, it's not a phenomenon. It comes from the Greek, which means a thing appearing to view. And it's based on a root that means to show. So not only does the exterior moon in the sky begin to show some light, but so do you. So do I. So do we. I hope that makes sense. So the fundamental point of this presentation is that when we get below the surface, the phenomenon of the HILAL, it symbolizes us. And it symbolizes us being a phenomenal people. Because the same thing that happens out on the horizon happens within our own selves. I'm not making this up. Now, in the Quran, we're familiar with the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has talked about taking people from the depths of darkness and leading them into light. We should have a testimony of how we were led from the depths of darkness into light. Imam Wali can probably tell when the crescent appeared in North Memphis in his personal life. I can tell you when the crescent appeared in South Memphis in my personal life, not in the sky, but in my personal life. From the intense depths of blackness, He, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, brings out the phenomenal Negro. I used to be a Negro, but now I realize I'm a Negro. I'm a phenomenon. The people in the masjid are Negroes. They're phenomenal people. They're a new thing that has appeared on the horizon in North America. We are a new thing that has appeared on the horizon in North America. Those of you who are here, those of you who are at home, pronounce this after me just for the reinforcement's sake. Pronounce, please. Negro.
Negro.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Light represents faith. Light also represents consciousness. Conscious Muslim life is phenomenal. To come out of unconsciousness into consciousness is like the Hilal crescent moon at the start of Ramadan. And that is what it symbolizes for the whole world. A reading consciousness. A consciousness that comes not from just believing in the dark, but having scripture with an emphasis to read. So we could subtitle this The Moon and You. The birth and the light. They talk about the birth of the new moon. And it's a cycle. Each of us, we could probably give a khutbah ourselves on how life is a cycle. We could remember ayats and phenomena that we have seen where life, human life, goes in a cycle. So again, we're focusing on the moon and you, the moon and me, the moon and us. In the Quran, Allah already put Sa'alunaka anil ahilla. Ahilla, right here, the plural of hilal, ahilla. And then it says what to say. It tells Muhammad, say, they are but signs to mark fixed periods of time in men and pilgrimage. people ask about the new moons, and the explanation that Allah told Prophet Muhammad to give is that they are signs to mark fixed periods of time in men. Now, many of us have been reading Yusuf Ali, translation year after year, and if we've done it enough times, our brain says fixed periods of time in the affairs of men. Because Yusuf Ali inserted in the affairs. But up here, there is no word umur, the normal word we see for the affairs. It's fixed period. This use of the insertion of the term affairs makes us think of simple calendar purposes. That the moon is for calendar setting purposes, setting dates. But it actually says periods of time in men. We go through periods of time in our lives, male and female. You can't be a newborn forever. You're going to have to, you keep living, you're going to have to go into the toddler period. You can't stay a toddler forever, but this is a fixed period of time. It's a known stage. The newborn stage is a known period of time in people. You can't stay a toddler forever. You can't stay a pre-adolescent forever. You can't stay a teenager forever. You can't stay a young adult forever. You can't stay old forever. You can't stay dead forever. And pilgrimage, which is another thing where you move. You're constantly moving from stage to stage. And the moon is a classic symbol of moving from stage to stage. We've probably even seen charts on the stages of the moon. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this is why I emphasize that I'm not making this up. He says, we will show them our signs in two places. In the horizon, which is the exterior, and within themselves, which is the interior. So this phenomenon of the crescent, it has two aspects, the exterior and the interior. What we see out in the horizon, when we look to sight the moon at the start of Ramadan, it has its corollary, it has its counterpart in the phenomenon of human life. And the rest of the ayah says, until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth. But is it not sufficient concerning your Lord that He is over all things a witness? So once again, for those who are tuning in a little later than the beginning of this presentation, we're saying that we look outside for the crescent, but really, this is you, this is me, this is us. Okay. Let's look at some words in English. We have three English words. We have crescent, increase, decrease. What do you think are the odds that these words are forms of the same word? For those who get into music, there's a thing called a crescendo. Crescent, crescendo. The music increases, or the volume increases and increases and increases, and they call it a crescendo in Italian. And Italian, of course, is the modern evolution of Latin. So the English word crescent comes from the Latin, which if you pronounce it the Italian way, you'd probably get crescere. But the Latin teacher at my high school says we should use a hard C and call it crescere. But likewise, the crease words, increase or decrease, they also come from crescere. So, in the stages of the moon, you will see a crescent. That means that the light is on the increase. And you will also see a crescent. That means that the light is on the decrease. Because just like our life, there's a cycle to this thing. I hope that makes sense. So, here we have a crescent moon. And this crescent that you see right here is not even supposed to stay looking like that for a week. If it's that size, it'll be that size for a day or two. And you come back in a few days, it's supposed to have increased. And you track it long enough and you will see it decrease. And then you'll see the cycle repeat itself. And what does Allah say? لَتَرْكَبُنَّ طَبَقًا عَنْ طَبَقٍ. You shall surely travel from stage to stage. We've seen that. And it's true for the moon. And it's true for us. Here is, from one particular angle, a pre-prepared illustration on the cycles of the moon. I did not prepare this. But in this illustration, it starts over on the left now. The scientists call it a new moon when you see nothing. The Quran ayat that we referred to, where it says they ask you about the new moon, is actually talking about the HILAL, which is the new crescent, when it's smaller than this. But in the first phase, you see light increasing. It's called the waxing crescent. Then it gets larger, gets larger, gets larger, and then, instead of waxing, it begins waning, which means decreasing. And it's got this new term, which I won't venture to pronounce, where the darkness is what's increasing. And so you wind up on the beginning stage with a crescent that looks like this, near the ending stage with a crescent that looks like that. I hope that makes sense. We want to show the same thing from another point of view. This is from the point of view that the sunlight is over here, and the light is moving this way. And so this is the new part, the waxing crescent, light getting more, light getting more, light getting more. Now the darkness starts to grow, the darkness is growing, the darkness is growing by the time you get to the waning crescent. Actually, and I don't want to get too deep off into this like I'm really an astronomer, but they say that the moon is always half lit. It's just a matter of point of view. But whichever half is turned to the light is lit, and whatever half is turned away from the light is dark. That represents us too. If we turn our back on the light, we're in darkness. So I hope that also makes sense. So, earlier we showed crescents on the flags, on some flags, and there's a lesson in the crescents. There's some lessons in the crescents. And I think we have taken about half the time already. We're not going to take that long to finish up this presentation. There is the flag of Algeria, Libya, Malaysia, Pakistan, Singapore, Turkey. What do all these countries have in common?
Wow.
It's al-Islam.
Yeah.
They identify themselves as Muslim countries, Muslim nations, right?
Right.
All right. Now here's the flag of the Nation of Islam. What do you notice?
The flag is on the other side.
The crescent is different. It's not copying the crescents from the old world, because the crescent shaped like this, out of the whole cycle, what does it mean? What does it symbolize when the crescent is shaped like this? It symbolizes beginning.
Right.
It symbolizes a phenomenal new growth. It symbolizes a new light coming against a background of darkness. So actually all these flags and all these crescents are oriented the way they're supposed to be. I hope that makes some sense. So again, we said earlier, below the surface, the phenomenon of the HILAL, which is the new crescent moon, it symbolizes us being phenomenal people. Now, we said that we were going to talk about understanding your religion, your community, your responsibility. Basically, I finished the general religion section. And we want to talk about understanding your community and still using the crescent theme or the crescent motif, if you will. So, this crescent is you, this crescent is me, this crescent is us. We want to look at the word moon in a new way now. When we say moon, we like to say moving on. I hope you can see it. Because the moon is constantly doing what? It's moving on, right? So our community is moving on. The new moon means new movement, and the new moon means looking forward. That's the way the crescent is shaped, and that's what it symbolizes in the cycle, as we said. There's a new phenomenon going on with MuslimJournal.net. I'm not taking time to tell you about it, but it's new. You get on your computer, you go to MuslimJournal.net, and you find out how our community is moving on. This is one of the oldest institutions in our community, and it is not staying as it was, it is moving on. There's a phenomenon that was talked about in the Sisters Ramadan session last week, a newer thing called Muslim Mix. I'm not here to tell you about Muslim Mix, but on your computer you can Google Muslim Mix, and you can see what is going on and how our community is moving on through Muslim Mix. And right here at Masjid Al-Mu'minun in Memphis, Tennessee, I understand we're about to get some new carpet. So MuslimJournal.net, Muslim Mix, and the carpet. Buy my latest album. The moon should symbolize moving on. Now this year, 2020, we've got non-Muslims feeling us on Facebook like never before. Something just happened. I guess that's on the Zoom. But we have non-Muslims feeling us on Facebook like never before. I'm looking on Facebook and I'm seeing Muslims express themselves, and I'm seeing non-Muslims hit the like button, the love button, the commenting, wow, like never before. We're sharing Al-Islam more widely and more wisely. That's underlying this phenomenon of the non-Muslims feeling us more than ever. So exposure to Al-Islam is in fact spreading. During this Ramadan, more so than ever before, to my understanding and to my perception. There's a new resident Imam here at Masjid Al-Mu'minun. I don't remember who told me, but somebody told me that after the word went out that Imam Rashad Sharif had resigned, that somebody asked somebody else, are we still going to have a masjid? Of course we're still going to have a masjid. We're moving on. There's a new generation delivering for the halal food pantry. Look how this happened. Look how Allah arranged this. The word went out. Old folks need to stay home. Old folks with these conditions need to stay home. Well, how are we going to operate the food pantry distribution? Some communities say, oh, young people need to step up. Did the distribution stop? Of course it didn't stop. They just kept doing what? Moving on. We've been talking about having outreach for seniors, caring about our seniors, checking on our seniors, but this Ramadan we're doing it like we never did before. There's growth and there's moving on. As we come of age from stage to stage, as you see here. So, as we are beginning to conclude, the phenomenon of the HILAL, crescent moon, it means something, at least to me. Consider this and see if it means this to you. The HILAL means that it's halal. The crescent is about increasing and the moon is about moving on. The HILAL, crescent moon, means that it's halal to increase and move on. It's that way in the horizon. It's that way in ourselves. So, we've talked about understanding your religion in general, your community, how it's moving on. Now, responsibility. First of all, to go back to what has been previously said, ye shall surely travel from stage to stage. Allah has said this. Is there anybody here who would try to disprove that? So our responsibility as those who submit is to accept, to travel from stage to stage. You can't hold on to any old stage forever. Hope that makes sense. So the responsibility for everybody is to step up. To step up. Step forward, step up, move on. And since I'm supposed to be the acronym man, step up would be see the external phenomenon. There's your step. Because Allah put His signs in the horizon and where? Within ourselves. So, see the external phenomenon and unleash your inner phenomenon. That's a responsibility. MashaAllah. So, that's us, but we can't stay like that. Learn to read what Allah has revealed in the horizon and in our own selves, on the pages of Scripture. So we thank you for your time and attention. See, how are we looking? Yeah, we're just about right on time. So I'm ready to turn it over unless there are questions that need to be addressed right now. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak. Takbir.
Allahu
Allahu
Akbar.
Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
If you have any questions or responses to the presenters, please submit them on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live. Inshallah, at this time, and on Zoom. Inshallah, at this time, we're getting ready to transition to the next presenter. So please excuse us while we set up for the next presenter. But during that time, if you have any questions or any responses to the presentation that Imam Rashad Sharif gave us, please type them in to either our Facebook Live or our YouTube Live or Zoom comment boxes. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. We had one question. Sister Kimberly asked, how does one know how to recognize the phenomenon that encourages the tipping point for self-change?
Well, I'll just briefly tell Sister Kimberly that I don't have the instant answer. But one of the emphasis of the presentation was to recognize that it's natural and it's inevitable and that we're supposed to be moving on. But as the moon moves, there is no sudden one point. It's a constant continuum that never stops. So I think we should accept that growth, progress, evolution to our natural ability is built into our creation. And Allah has something that He's put in the Quran several times, مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, to the extent that you can. It means to the extent that you can, but it implies that you are seeking and trying to the extent of your ability.
Okay.
And then you don't grieve over it.
Alhamdulillah. Sister Kimberly has another question. Can Allah bring about a negative phenomenon to encourage self-change? And how does this relate to the human stages of development?
Answer is to the can Allah question is yes. The second part of it was?
How does this relate to the human stages of development?
Well, if you try to stay in size 5 shoes, eventually you realize you need the proper shoes.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Imam Sharif. I'm hearing now that with this portable mic that I have, our volume has increased. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this to Imam Amin.